This chilling tale is called The Flesh Choir, and it's part of a series we're doing, called Unspeakable Terrors. I hope you enjoy it. It started with a sound low, vibrating, almost like a choir humming in the depths of an abandoned church. But this was no church. It was the forgotten sublevel of the Harrogate Research Facility, buried 6 stories below the earth, sealed decades ago after a containment failure. Nobody knew exactly what had been contained, only that when they sent in the cleanup crew, they never came back out, and those who followed found disturbing echoes of what had been here before. When Elias Ward, a structural engineer with more curiosity than self-preservation, was assigned to assess the old site for possible redevelopment, the others laughed. "You'll find nothing but mold and rats," they said. "Be careful down there. That place gives me the creeps," one added, and Elias just smiled knowingly. He had a feeling they'd be the ones making the creepy discoveries. He headed to the basement level first. The elevator shaft had been filled in with concrete, but the rusted staircase still descended into darkness. He could still hear that humming, a bass note underlying the drip of water somewhere above. He took a breath and started down the stairs. The air grew warmer the deeper he went, cozier even, and he could feel it stirring around him, moving like a living thing. By the time he reached sublevel 6, his flashlight flickered as though struggling against something unseen. The humming was louder now. It vibrated in his chest. He found an opening, a breached wall. Peering through the gap, he saw a tunnel ahead and a set of double doors on the right. As he passed through the wall, the humming abruptly cut out. For a moment, all he could hear was his own breathing and the pounding of his heart. He walked slowly into the tunnel. At the end, the double doors loomed before him, slightly ajar. Light spilled out from between them, drawing him forward. Just before he reached them, the humming returned, a steady drone. Cautiously, he pushed the door open and stepped inside. The chamber beyond was enormous, its walls and ceiling lost in shadow. But within the circle of his flashlight, he saw that it was filled with fleshy, pulsating shapes. Then he realized they were people. At least they used to be people. Now they were lined with peeling porcelain tiles, the kind commonly found in bathrooms. The tiles were smeared with long-dried brown stains, like blood. They were arranged in neat rows, each marked with a crosshatch pattern, like a butcher might mark out a carcass. But that couldn't be. There were no butchers down here. And yet these people were skinned alive, their muscles and tendons laid bare, revealing the horrifying truth. They weren't tiles at all. They were the remains of the unfortunate souls who'd once worked here. At the far end, an open doorway pulsed faintly, as if something beyond was breathing. The air grew warm and coppery, like old blood. Underneath it, a faint sweetness, like rotting fruit. He felt his heart rate spike. Probably just the air pressure differences, he muttered, but the words felt hollow in his mouth. He took a step forward. Whatever was behind that door, it was alive. He stepped through and the door hissed shut behind him. The humming filled the room again, resonating through his bones. The room beyond was massive, its walls and ceiling hidden by a writhing web of fibrous strands, pale, ropey tissue that seemed to fuse with the concrete itself. At the center, emerging from the mass, were faces, dozens of them. Their skin was mottled and pocked, their eyes bulbous and unblinking. Each had a mouth stretched wide with jagged teeth, and from each mouth slithered a slick, twitching tongue. The strands of flesh connected them all, like a single organism wearing many heads, and they were looking at him. The humming deepened into a chorus, vibrating through the floor and into his bones. He stumbled back, but the flesh web pulsed, contracting like muscle, cutting off his retreat. The nearest head lurched forward, its neck elongating unnaturally, teeth snapping inches from his face. Its tongue flicked the air, tasting him. A second head joined it, then a third, each lunging on tendrils of muscle, the strands tearing wetly from the mass before recoiling. "WH, what the hell are you?" Elias gasped. They answered not with words, but with that sound low and harmonic, yet so wrong it twisted his stomach. Something wet brushed his ankle. Looking down, he saw a rope of flesh curling around his boot, tugging gently. He kicked it away, but more tendrils slithered from the floor, winding up his legs. The humming grew deafening. His flashlight slipped from his hand, rolling to the base of the wall. In its weak beam, he noticed something human skeletons, dozens of them, half absorbed into the pulsing mass. Skulls with mouths stretched in silent screams. Rib cages fused with strands of tissue. The realization hit him like a blow. This thing wasn't just alive. It was feeding. The flesh tendrils climbed higher, wrapping his waist, pulling him toward the center. He clawed at them, but they were slick and unyielding, warm under his fingers like living muscle. The heads began to chant, not humming, now chanting. The words were guttural, alien, yet something in him understood. Join the choir. He thrashed, but the tendrils tightened, lifting him off the ground. His back slammed into the mass, and it was like being pressed against hot tar that moved. The heads closed in, teeth clattering like insect mandibles. One tongue lashed across his cheek, leaving a burning trail. His skin began to tingle where the mass touched him, then burn, then soften. The realization came too late. His flesh was melting into it, fibers knitting into the larger body. His hands disappeared first, swallowed up to the wrists. His screams became part of the chorus, the sound vibrating through the web, harmonizing with the other voices. His vision blurred. The last thing he saw before the darkness took him was a new face swelling from the massive face with his own eyes, his own mouth, opening wide to sing. Weeks later, the redevelopment team arrived. They found the upper floors empty, but deep below, faintly, there was music, a strange, low harmony echoing from the walls. One worker pressed his ear to the concrete and swore he heard voices inside, calling his name. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please check out our series in the description or comments below. We have tons of unique and terrifying tales that will leave you sleepless for days. Also, let us know what you thought about the story, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. We can always use more flesh in our choir.